Hi there, YouTubers and weavers. Well, I've wound on 6.5 yards of 16-2 cotton. That's the real thin stuff. And I'm starting to put it through the Heddles. I've got exactly one thread through the Heddles so far, which means I've got 1,091 to go if my counting was correct when I was counting out my threads on the warping board. So I'll show you what that looks like at the back of the loom. We'll take a look at putting the first couple more threads through, and then I'm not going to bore you to death for hours upon hours as I thread the rest of the Heddles. So let's take a look around back. And there we are. That's the 39 inches wide at 28 threads per inch is going to be the goal. And this will hopefully turn into a shirt. Okay, well, so the way I'm doing this is, even though it's going to be 28 threads per inch, I'm doing my heddle threading in batches of 24 threads. I know that seems crazy, but the math worked out that way for the number of heddles that I've got. So I'll show you in a minute what my logic was in coming up with 24 threads at a time. But this is a plain weave cloth that I'm going to be making, so you know, if I had enough heddles on shafts 1 and 2, I could do it all on shafts 1 and 2, and that'd be nice. But I don't have enough heddles on shafts 1 and 2, and it is much easier to thread multiple shafts than it is to move heddles. So because of the number of heddles that I have per shaft, I'm going to use 8 shafts to do this 2-shaft pattern. And I'm doing it such that I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I do 1, 2. That gives me a group. And then I start all over again doing that same thing. So let's see, 8 and 8 is 16, and 6 is 22, and 2 is 24. There's how I get my 24 threads in a group. That's it. Okay, YouTube, it's now time for us to do a little bit of arithmetic and some calculations to show you a little bit of how my planning works for this project that we're currently looking at. So right now, let's take a look at how many inches of width I want in the project. My end goal with this is to have a piece of fabric about 36 inches wide. But I know I'm going to have draw-in, so I'm adding a few extra inches. I also know that I'm going to take the fabric and run it through the wash machine to get it to shrink. So I'm taking a scientific wild guess, commonly known as a swag, and I'm saying I'm going to make 39 inches in the reed in the hopes of getting about a 36-inch piece of fabric when I'm all done. I also know, based on the sample that I did, you can see that in my previous video, that I want to do the weaving here at 28 threads per inch. Well, 28 times 39 is 1,092 threads. Okay, so if there's 1,092 threads and I'm going to do plain weave, then I need to figure out how many Heddles I'm going to use. And to me, it is easier to use Heddles on multiple shafts than it is to move them from one set of shafts to another. So here you can see the list of shafts on my loom, and here is the number of Heddles on each of those shafts. So let's take at a running total. Let's see how many total we need. In order to, I want to always use even number of Heddles, or even number of shafts, so as I can do plain weave, half of them being up and half of the threads being down. So starting here, I've got 400, because I've got 200 and 200. That's not enough to get 1,092. So we keep going down. Well, we can get 1,092 out of 7 shafts, but that's not an even number. So I want to do, I can't make it with my 6 shafts. That's only 1,000 threads. So we're going to use shafts number 1 through 8 in order to get over 1,092 in available Heddles. Then I decided arbitrarily to say, let's divide this up. And I decided to divide by 50 because 200, 150, and 100 are all divisible by 50. Pick a number. But it can't, it's got to be divided by 2, I guess you could do. Anyways, if I do that, then I can say I'm going to use 4 threads from shaft 1, 4 threads from shaft 2, or 4 Heddles, not threads, 4 Heddles from shaft 1 and 2, 3 Heddles from shaft 3 and 4, 3 Heddles from shaft 5 and 6, and 2 Heddles from shaft 7 and 8. That gets me down to 24 threads in a set of Heddles. Then if I take 1,092 and divide it by 24 threads per set from right here, right there, my 24, that means I will have 45 and a half sets all the way across, and that's when I'm pulling it through, and the reed, I will tie it into batches of 24 threads instead of the 28 that matches an inch. But this way I know that I have planned to have enough Heddles available to cover my 1092 needed Heddles. So there's my logic, if you want to call it logic, of how I decided what I'm going to do. And always what's going to happen is shafts 1, 3, 5, and 7 will be tied together as if they were all shaft number 1, and shafts 2, 4, 6, and 8 will all go into the tie-up as if they were shaft number 2 for a plain weave treadling to do this project. So I'm getting close to the end of slaying this reed. I've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 inches, 7.5 inches to go. And I'm doing it at 28 ends per inch using a 12 dent reed, and that doesn't work out to a nice even number. So I'm doing it in sets of 2 threads like that, and I reach back and I grab my next 2 threads, grab my handy dandy little hook knife, through the reed, grab the next 2 threads, going back and grab the next 3 threads. So if you've been counting, that's 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 3 is 7, in 3 different dents. There's, in a 12 dent reed, there's 12 dents in an inch. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 4 times 7 is 28. So guess what? This is my 28 ends per inch. So, and that, you know, it's going to seem like, okay, it's going to be just a little bit thicker where the 3 threads are through 1 dent than the 2s, but the difference is so small that it really does come out to a pretty even 28 threads per inch, besides which, after you wash this the first time, all those threads will even out just fine, and you'll get a true even 28 threads per inch. So now I'm just going to give these a quick comb out to be sure they're nice and straight. Tie a knot in the end of it and drop it. Then do the next 1 inch worth. I'm doing these in groups of 1 inch. So we'll do that, then we'll get it tied onto the front beam and finally begin weaving.